Hey, and welcome into another edition of Face Off here on the State Champs Network. Glad to be talking lacrosse along with the coach and my broadcast partner, Greg Durham. I'm Sean Baligian. And Coach, this is a special segment because it's always fun when I know you did your due diligence, you did some homework, you made some phone calls, and we're putting together our first unofficial top 10 lists of the year. So without further ado, as I say, welcome into the show, Coach. What are these top 10s looking like? Let's start with the boys.
All right, so top 10, remember this is Division 1 and 2 combined. I think that is the best way to represent the state of Michigan. Let's go all the schools together. You know, Brother Rice still, they're undefeated. They're playing unbelievable. They have 4 Division 1 midfielders. They continue the pace that everybody else needs to keep up. You know, like I said before, Country Day is really doing really well this year. They're playing well. They're a balanced young team all together. Not a lot of seniors, but enough to hold their own. They're 7-0. I mean, they got to be number 2. CC, playing them, seeing what they have. I put them at number 3. Right behind them, Forest Hill Central and EGR, the Battle of the West. They're going to keep up pace. And I threw in Grand Ledge. Grand Ledge, they're a pretty impressive team. I think they're going to come around. They're going to probably dominate the mid-Michigan divisions. The KLA, you got Brighton, Heartland, and then, throw out Rockford in there. And Clarkston, who has some nice wins under their belt, they finished out 10th. There's a lot of great teams coming up. They're going to be, but it's still early in the season, and, that's going to probably change next week.
It's nice that we can have some debate. I know in talking to you before the show, you were taking some phone calls, and I've been looking at stuff online. The good thing is there's some debate, and there are some teams that have a chance to crack their way into the top 10, dare I say crack their way into the top 5 as well, and that's a beautiful thing for the sport across the board.
Yeah, I think overall you're going to see some new teams pop in there, like maybe a Cass Tech, maybe Lake Orion getting that top 10, Forest Hills Eastern, Byron Center, they had a nice upset of Grand Rapids Catholic Central last week. So you have all those teams that are going to be, I think they'll pop in there eventually down the line here.
What do you got on the girls' side?
So the girls, it's still kind of the usual suspects. A couple little changes, like Brighton, they lost Forest Hills Northeastern. Not a big deal to them. It's early in the season. It's kind of a rematch of last year's state championship. But I think they'll eventually get there, and that could be a repeat of state championship. But you have EGR to start out, DCD, they're right there, 1 and 2. They'll be probably playing each other again. Like I said, Forest Hills Northeastern, Brighton, you got Rockford. I put Farmington Hills Mercy. I like Mercy. They're on a roll, a little bit of a roll there. They did just beat Marion, I believe. You got Bloomfield Hills, who's pretty talented. Birmingham United, they match up, I think, this week. And then KLA, you got Heartland to go along with Brighton. And then, obviously, finish out the Catholic League, you got Marion right there at 4 and 2. So
great stuff. And I'll tell you what, speaking of the girls' side of things, the coach has an interview with a coach when we come back. Always love it when the two coaches can talk shop. These broadcaster types need to get out of the way and let the coaches talk. So that's what we're going to do coming up next right here on Face Off on the State Champs Network.
All right, so today, Coach's Spotlight, we have an interview with head coach the Brighton Girls program, Ashton Peters. Welcome, Ashton, to State Champs. We're excited to have you today. How you guys doing?
Thanks. We are doing very well this season. We're 2-1. Sorry, opposite. We decided to start the season full blast with Forest Hills Northeast, who we beat in states last year. And they did catch us, but I'm okay with them beating us this early in season. Okay.
Yeah, last year was a unique situation. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your background at Brighton, how you got, where did you play in high school, college, and then kind of tell you how you got the head coaching job at Brighton, and then kind of go from there all the way up through last year.
Okay. So I actually played at Brighton High School from 2008 to 2012. I was on the first state championship team in 2011, which was very, very cool. And then from 2016, I was at Alma College and I was coached under Laurie Marion and Ashley Johnson, both phenomenal coaches in the girls lacrosse world. During my time at Alma, I was a on the MIAA teams multiple times. I was the first, which was very cool, Rookie of the Year for the MIAA in 2013. I have to remember back. I'm getting older, I've realized, in the lacrosse world. And I was just like on one of the inaugural teams there, which was very, very cool. And then in 2016, I got hired as a teacher in Brighton. And so naturally I was like, John, I'm ready to coach. Where do you need me? And I was the freshman coach. And then the following season, John Thompson asked me to move up to be one of the assistant coaches in 2000. It would have been 2018 at that time. One of the assistant coaches for the varsity A team. And my main focus during that time was to just really focus on the draw as well as like the speed of practice, since I had just come out of college. So I really focused on making sure we were moving practice at a pace of a college practice. And then midway through that season, it was like 3 regular season games left over. I was asked to be the interim head coach because the other coach stepped down mid-season, and I said absolutely, and was officially hired as the head coach the following fall. And since then, we have made it to states every single year, which has been like the goal of my program. My overall goal is for every girl to see a state championship game, whether that is win it or come in second place, because either way, that is a massive accomplishment. And then over the course of the past years, we've just really worked on closing that gap between the east side and the west side of the state. And I can successfully closed it last year by winning states. Amazing. Very, very unique time for our program. I had my first son in August of last year and was very caught off guard with the miracle boy that I would be provided and given and trusted with, who was born with an undiagnosed congenital heart defect. And that undiagnosed congenital heart defect ended us in a 265-day hospital stay with 3 open heart surgeries, including a heart transplant. And that heart transplant actually occurred on April 17th, which is in a couple of days, and on Easter Sunday last year. So this time of the year is very special to our family, but as you can tell, that was in the middle of lacrosse season. So I was actually not around last season as the head coach. I hand selected an interim coach for our program, who was somebody that I was like trying to get to coach with us every year. So last year I was like, hey, Ryan, I have a different offer for you. And she stepped in exactly what the program needed, exactly what the girls needed, because we knew that 2022 would be the year that we could win states.
No,
so yeah, that was a lot.
That's a huge undertaking. I mean, it just, like I said before, is that it just tells you how great your culture is, about how the girls persevered, got through it. I'm sure they're glad you're back and ready to, go at it again and hopefully repeat as champions. But that's just phenomenal. Is there any players this year? Because I know you graduated like 5 or 6 really talented girls last year. Is there any girls that you feel are just going to take that place and step up this year to help you get there again?
Absolutely. We graduated 6 seniors who I remember looking at them their freshman year and saying, if you guys all stick with this, you will win states by the time you're a senior. And it was cool to say that at their banquet, like you did it. And those girls really were part of setting that culture for our program, and making sure girls are putting in time in the off season, sure girls are on the wall, in the weight room, all of those things that build a team in the off season. I tell my players, college teams are built in the off season by recruiting. High school teams are built in the off season as well. And so in the off season, we definitely had several freshmen, sophomores, and juniors and seniors all step into that role. Currently, we have 3 captains who are doing phenomenal. Cece Mainhart and Ashley Toth are our main seniors on the field right now. Ashley is an incredible defender who has put in a ton of time this past season in the summer with Laurie Marion and MD Lax, and she has stepped up to possibly become a midfielder for us. And then Cece Mainhart is also a midfielder / midi D for us, and they are absolutely incredible. We've had a sophomore, because we had 2 seniors last year who were like our primary draw girls, and we have had a sophomore, Sophia Hetty, just step in as our draw control, and she is killing it on the draw. And then our girls on the circle, Gigi and Gigi, which it's Georgia Gill, but I never remember to call her Georgia Gill. She's on the circle for us, and the amount of time that she put in to get her like off the whistle speed and get all of that ready for season and our ground balls, she knew what she needed to do for the team and knew what we were losing with our girls on the circle last year, and they all came in prepared knowing where they needed to be, which has been amazing.
That's awesome. I mean, I know you got a lot of talent. It's just kind of you're just kind of like the boys' side, like Brother Rice. Just let's refill. Let's just fill those gaps back and forth. Here's a question. I know Sean, if he also would ask, what do you notice in the growth of the girls lacrosse in Michigan that has kind of changed, and how is Brighton like leading that way?
So the biggest thing I believe that is changing in girls lacrosse right now is stick skills. When I was in high school, I tell the girls all the time, I didn't have a left hand. I didn't need to have a left hand to be a good player. And so I tell my girls, you need to play wall ball, because that was the biggest difference for us. And I have to say, I know that sounds like such a small and minute thing to say that is leading the way for Brighton, but it truly is. We have gone from our varsity program having dropped passes in the past, like previously, to if you come to one of our practices, we have hardly any balls on the ground. The other thing that we require on all levels of our program is 15 to 30 minutes of conditioning, which sounds like a lot as well, every single practice, because although a team may be as skilled as all get out, if they can't continue to run for a whole game and they can't run circles around other teams and beat them to those junk balls or whatever it is, they are not going to be able to win those games. And once we started doing that, like our first year at States, we lost by a long shot. It was very evident. But our girls came out of it and they were like, Coach, we were able to keep up with them because we were so conditioned and because our stick skills were there. And that was something I implemented as soon as I took over the program in 2018. I think the other thing is that a lot of these girls are playing travel lacrosse together in the off season with a multitude of different coaches. So although they're seeing me and the coaching staff that we have at Brighton, they're also getting experience with higher level coaches that are coaching colleges who have just an immense amount of training and experience. And these girls are coming in stronger than they left me at the end of season, which makes it so when we step up for season, they're learning our plays, they're learning our offensive sets. We're not working on the foundational skills. We're moving into how do we win a state championship.
Awesome. No, that's great. Well, no, thank you so much for today. We really appreciate you coming to visit State Champs, and we look forward to having you again in the future. And, good luck to you in the rest of the season. And I hope you guys are, repeat your state championship once again. Thanks a lot for being on.
We do as well. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and hopefully we'll be back again next year as the 23 state champs.
All right, welcome back into Face Off here, our lacrosse show on the State Champs Network. Can't say enough about our friends from Warrior. I mean, they really have hooked us up for years on the hockey side of things, and they are doing the same thing now on lacrosse. So big shout out to our friends from Warrior. Coach, I always say this on the hockey side. The first list is so hard to whittle it down to 10 to, but we remind people each and every week, this list is fluid. What the list looks like now, in all likelihood, is not going to look like this at the end of the year. Sure, there'll be a few names on there, but there are a few names that are going to play themselves on this list as well, and that's what's so fun about showing everybody our inaugural list.
Absolutely. The 10 guys that we chose, I called several coaches and we had conversation about a lot of guys, and I never really asked them about their players. They gave up better players around the state. It was really kind of nice to talk to several coaches and just get the perspective on certain players from certain areas. And we represent the whole state here. That's what's great. You have the Brother Rices, you have the CCs, but then you have, Country Day, but then you have Grand Rapids Catholic Central. You got Forest Hill Central, you got Okemos, you got Grand Ledge. There's a lot of good programs there that are up and coming, kids that are just standing out. And it's really nice to see that, hey, they make their inaugural top 10. But like I said, it's fluid. It's going to change. And hopefully we get some other players in there from other outliers as well.
Now, we're going to tell people that our voting is going to start hopefully by the end of this weekend, so keep an eye on that. And as always, the one rule we have here at State Champs is the online winner automatically gets into our Final Four. Now, whittling it from 10 to 4 is a difficult proposition, but if you go out there and you support your guy in this process, boom, he automatically goes into that Final Four. And then it becomes even more arduous to try to figure out 3 other names in there. And then around the time of the finals, Coach Durham, I know you'll talk to some coaches. I'll reach out to some coaches and kind of get, what the consensus is for maybe who should be our Warrior Lacrosse Player of the Year based on our criteria. This is the time of the show, and John Kidd is always on the spot when I say this. Here's our criteria. We do things a little differently because we want the award to be a little different. And it's worked out well on the football side. It's worked out well on the hockey side. And we know it's going to work out well again here on the lacrosse side. So by all means, check out our website, State Champs Network. Make sure that you check it out. We are going to have the voting up by the end of the weekend. And you go out there and you support your guy. Maybe, I don't know, a guy from Orchard Lake, a guy from Catholic Central, whatever the case may be, and that guy automatically gets into the top 10. But we're pretty happy about this inaugural list, Coach.
Awesome, man. I'm pretty happy with it, too. I've seen a bunch of these guys. I haven't seen them all, but I look forward to seeing a couple of those players that stand out, and hopefully we get some feedback from the fans as well. So really good to see.
Before we get out of here, and I want to say again, great job with the interview as well. You might have a job in this business, Coach Durham. When you're done coaching, come on in, join the dark side. But hey, listen, we would be remiss if we didn't give a special shout out to one of the giants. I don't use this term lightly. One of the legends in the game as well, Coach Durham.
So this past week, Lake Orion head coach Ron Hebert, who has been coaching since I was in high school. He surpassed Rob Ambrose, the former Brother Rice head coach, who won a national championship and so on. He just surpassed him with 313 wins. Unbelievable. Ron is, like I said, he's a living legend. He's a character. I love coaching against him. He's in the Coaches Hall of Fame. He's just a great overall. He's an ambassador for the sport. He loves the game. He continues to do it at age 70. You don't find many coaches to last this long and continue the success that he's had. So congrats to Ron and Lake Orion on reaching that 313 wins. 313. There you go.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Hey, before we get out of here, and it's always a pleasure doing this with you, my friend, what do you have coming up on the docket, and what are some games you kind of have the eye on as well?
So this, Wednesday, there's a couple of these. I like kind of the boys' games to watch. The KLA matchup, Plymouth at Novi. They're both undefeated. It should be a good game. I mean, it should be a solid game. They're not in the top 10, but they're going to be teams that are going to be reckoned with down the line. You got Granville at Forest Hills Northern. 2 good programs. Let's see how they battle it out. Then on Thursday, you have Forest Hill Central against Grand Rapids Catholic Central. Both are strong teams. You got EGR at Rockford. These are all West Coast teams, but they're good teams. Could be a great matchup. I look forward to seeing that. Hazlitt at Grand Ledge. Let's talk about Mid-Michigan right there. How legit is Grand Ledge? Let's see where they stand. That should be a big game for them. Maybe Hazlitt get the best of them. And then Lake Orion at Brighton, Saturday, 2 p.m. That should be a great game. I think both teams are very similar, very balanced, and see if Ron can get another win out of that one. Or Jim Carl, another legend.
You guys coming off the break, how busy are things for you coming off the break?
Coming off the break, the boys get back today. We have practice, and then Friday we leave for Chicago area. We play New Trier, play Wheaton Academy. Should be tough. And then we come back on Tuesday, and we open up the Catholic League again. And we play Cranbrook, which should be a great game. I think both teams are very similar. So look forward to that.
Outstanding. Well, safe travels to you guys. Heading out just west of Chicago, if my memory serves me correct, certainly with the Wheaton situation. Great job with the interview, Coach, and certainly we want to thank all the coaches out there for helping us with our inaugural Top 10 Warrior Lacrosse Player of the Year. Want to remind you one more time, your chance to be a part of it. Make sure to check this out before the end of the weekend. I know my boy John Kidd will have it up. You can vote your guy automatically into the Final Four of this competition. Thanks to Warrior again. Coach Durham, thank you. Thank you to Brighton. Thank you to John Kidd and everybody behind the scenes. Any final words before we bid everybody adieu, Coach?
No, I hope everybody stays healthy. It's warm. The weather's warming up. We're going to be in the 70s, and it should be some great lacrosse action in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, why don't you go out and see a game, huh? I know Coach Durham's going to go see a few games, but why don't you go out and see a game with the weather being nice? You mentioned Novi, very close to my house. I have a feeling I might pop out there for that one. For the coach, Greg Durham, I'm Sean Baligian saying we'll talk to you next week right here on Face Off on the State Champs Network.
State Champs Face Off is presented by Lawrence Technological University. Be curious. Make magic. Visit ltu.edu. Face Off is also brought to you by the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. The Michigan Army National Guard, a proud sponsor of the MHSAA. Warrior Lacrosse, Michigan-based, Michigan-built. Visit warrior.com. The Detroit Athletic Club Foundation Male and Female Athlete of the Year Awards. Who will be this year's award winners? Find out live June 5th, only on the State Champs Sports Network.